Hi, I'm Wendy Ventura, personal relationship coach. Thanks for joining me. We're up to day 32 today of the 40-day marriage challenge that we've been doing lately. Today we're talking about loving at all times, which is really unconditional love. It's about being committed and dedicated in our marriage to love our spouse through the good and the bad, when they're lovely and unlovely. And it doesn't depend upon how we feel. Feelings come and go, as you know. It doesn't depend on what's going on around us. We might be going through a crisis, we might be having a really difficult time, but it's just choosing every day to act lovingly towards our spouse and to do it in a way that is helping to support them to be all they can be, to be able to live a right relationship with God according to His Word. So the the challenge is to choose to commit to act lovingly towards your spouse today, regardless of how you feel and what's going on around you. To love one another is what the greatest commandment God gave us was to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and then to love others as ourselves. And He gave it to us as a command because it doesn't depend on feelings, and it's a choice that we make daily. And it's something that we can only really do properly in His strength. And so it helps us to turn towards Him, to depend on Him. And, we've had this love modeled to us when God sent Jesus to die for us while we were yet sinners. You know, He didn't wait for us to be perfect first. He loved us while we were in our sin, and we can love our spouse regardless of where they're at in their journey. As we've said a few days ago, we all have faults. We all have things that annoy each other, but it's overlooking these things and choosing to love them in spite of that. You know, we may have a spouse that may be treating us wrongly, maybe saying or doing hurtful things towards us, and we're still called to love that spouse. But part of loving our spouse in those situations may actually be in confronting those behaviors and not enabling them to be able to continue to live in those sins, but bringing them to their attention and then maybe having consequences, boundaries, like we've talked about in the past as well. For example, if you have a spouse that's caught up in an addiction, maybe your behavior may have been partly enabling them. Maybe you've been trying to cover for them, take up the extra slack, or hide it from others. And so stopping those enabling behaviors may be actually the most loving thing you can do for them, so that they can start to feel the consequences of their sin and take responsibility for their own behavior. So what this love is going to look like is different from couple to couple. It's not all candle-lit dinners and serving our spouse, although that's also a part of it. It's just choosing to do what is in the best interest of our spouse and our relationship and what is right before God. And it will require, God's love and strength, so spending time with Him, depending on Him, being filled with His Spirit, which is love, and allowing that to flow through us to our spouse is the only way we can really fulfill this command properly. And God does promise that He will enable us to be able to live out whatever He has called us to do. And in marriage, we promise to love and honor and cherish our spouse till the day we die. And so there is a way that we can do this through Him. Now, of course, we are going to fail, and our spouse is going to fail, and these are times that we can show God's redemptive love through forgiveness and reconciliation and just being patient and gracious with one another. So I think it's also shows the people around us. It also reflects God's love, and so the Bible also says that by this shall all men know that you are my disciples, if you have love one for another. Because this kind of love is not really, we're not really able to do in our own human capacity. It does require us to be filled with God's love, and so it brings Him honor and glory and shows people that we are being filled with Him and following Him. And it also, when we're both living in this showing unconditional love to our spouse, it creates a safe environment where we can allow our mistakes, allow our weaknesses to come to the surface, where we can talk about our struggles with our spouse and not know that we're not going to be attacked, but to know that we're going to be loved through these things, and allows God to do his transforming work through us within the marriage. And it helps to develop that intimacy and helps us to live authentically and to be really fully known with each other, and to be known and to be loved and accepted for who we truly are at the core of our being, and to just overcome our weaknesses together by each other's side. I think that's about it. So it's a big topic, but just to check in with your attitude, really, to see if you are able to examine your heart and see, is there something stopping you from loving your spouse unconditionally? And then whatever that may be, sometimes if we have anger or unforgiveness or bitterness in our heart towards our spouse from past wrongs, we may need to work through this first before we can let that love flow. And forgiving our spouse is part of choosing to act lovingly as well. So if you need help with that, maybe you've had some big hurts or repetitive hurts, happy to support you through that as well. But I'd love to hear how you go as you choose daily to act lovingly towards your spouse, regardless of how you feel or what's going on around you, to help your spouse to be the best person that they can be and create that safe environment where God can do his transforming work in us. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye for now.